ChrisDaGoat, he has a podcast, yeah. ChrisDaGoat, it's called The Goat Man Show. He's a Capricorn hippie, banjo-loving hillbilly. He lives in Missouri. It's The Goat Man Show, yeah. Who is ChrisDaGoat? What is this podcast even about? All of these questions and more will not be addressed. Welcome to The Goat Man Show.
Welcome back, everyone. This is ChrisDaGoat. You are listening to The Goat Man Show. So, people are pretty shitty, and I've touched a lot, on peace and trying to be understanding, even though it's not always possible. Uh, I'm a hippie at heart. I try to be very respectful and try to have an understanding for what everybody else is going through and not be too judgmental, even though I'm human and I'm going to make mistakes and so on and so forth. Well, we won't ramble too much, but I'll tell you what's pretty rotten, and that's whenever people are so unhappy with themselves that they have to attack other people to feel significant. In the last episode, I really kind of touched on some uh, topics like whenever people are, they try to conform with a group because they don't feel significant about themselves. But this is a little different because I notice, and it's social media, and social media is just, a horrible, evil thing that, it's turned into something that's just ridiculous for the most part. And I think most people can agree. There is some entertainment still that comes through, but for the most part, it's still just pretty vague and shitty, and people just trolling and just cyberbullying, to an extent. I do my fair share of shit posting, but I don't ever, try to ruin somebody's life over something. But I love to point out faults and issues whenever people just say something uh, open-mindedly and ignorantly, just to the extent of they're wanting to judge without having any kind of just reason for it. So, one big example, we're going to use politics in this. I'm not real firm. I'm not a hardcore one way or the other because I don't personally feel uh, that that's going to do any good. And that's a whole another subject in itself. But I had asked the simple question because Time magazine had named Biden and Harris as Person of the Year for 2020. So I just asked the simple question, what have they done to deserve that title? And the part I didn't add, but the part that I can speculate is other than the fact that it's to spite Trump and all of the allegations that are, coming forward. And I'm not, like I say, I'm not trying to sway one way or the other in politics because I personally don't have any kind of preference or super significant opinion on one thing or the other. I do personally think that there is definitely fraud, the horrible F word. But that's neither here nor there. But people immediately just started attacking, like, oh, you're not intelligent, or oh, you're stupid, and I just want to throw out there, it doesn't bother me. I think it's funny. I do. I find humor out of it. It gives me a giggle or two because a lot of the times whenever these people are getting into things like that and they're saying what they're saying, it's so ignorant that it makes you laugh. I mean, it's brain numbing. I love it so much. They think that they're doing good by just immediately slamming somebody, and my cases really weren't too bad, but I asked them, I said, okay, so name one thing that they have done. And through the whole time, it was two people that I had been talking to personally. Neither one of them could give me a reason. One of them acknowledged that I had asked for one, and it went on back and forth a couple times, and nothing was ever said. So the point that I get to is, if you're going to be so offended to have an opinion, the least you could do for your cause or whatever it is speak up for your opinion. If you're a Trump supporter, great, say why. If you're a Biden supporter, great, say why. It is what it is. But don't sit there and try to censor and limit one person's opinion, and then not give your side of the fence. I think it's a very hypocritical thing is whenever people want to say, "Oh, what you're doing's bad," or "What you're doing's wrong," or telling you how to live, or whatever the case may be, but they're not willing to come forward and say what their stuff's all about. They're not willing to defend, to the bone what it is that they represent. They fear what somebody else stands for, especially whenever they A, don't understand it, or B, feel like, it's something that's attacking them, or C, they don't care, or, no disrespect intended, they're just too ignorant to process the reality of the world and the situation that we're in. And that's one of the biggest cases of it. Um, so I think the reason why these people, and I'm not a psychiatrist or a psychologist, so I don't, this isn't a professional opinion, but I think most people that are listeners so far, from what I can tell, are level-headed people who listen to, what's being said and don't just jump to conclusions. They're really listening to what I'm saying and understand that it's truth as I see it. They have an issue and they are either unhappy or angry or some kind of detachment to where they don't feel or don't want to feel like they are part of society. So they go with these crazy, like example in the last episode, from one group to another, or a different kind of culture, or whatever the case may be, in order to find that purpose. But in this case, it's they're lashing out instead because they're unhappy with themselves. So they feel if ever, it's more accurate for them to attack somebody and for them to get violent or hateful and close themselves off to not be open to that dialogue. That's not being successful at anything, first off. Second off, that's not proving your side. If I were to be asked by anybody for what my belief is, if it was a conversation I was willing to engage in at the time, I'd be happy, as long as it's kind of like the dialect that I put here. I want it to be something to where it's a natural thing. There's no attacks. If there is a disagreement at any chance, that it should be something that's a healthy disagreement. There shouldn't be attacking and ignorant little uh, foolish games and stuff because you think, oh, if I'm mean, you're going to go run away and hide and I win, because that's not how it works. If I'm asked something, I'm willing to go through that as long as I'm given the respect of having, the platform that I can have that discussion. And likewise, I would provide that in return. The problem is now, it's pretty obvious, is that people feel if they're right about something, they don't care about anybody else's opinion necessarily, unless it's somebody they agree with or whatever. Um, that nobody else's opinion is good enough to listen to, so their job is to shut it down. Unfortunately, that's not the case, and nobody has the right on any side of the fence, no matter what you believe, who you believe. You owe it to everybody the freedom to express themselves. Now, there's a fine line with that because there's always extremes to every single scenario that you can come up with. So it's like if you were to, do a propaganda run and force a way of life down people's throats against their will and try to make laws for it that they have to do that against their will. I don't agree with that because again, those key words "against their will" is a big problem. Um, if people don't accept your uh, belief, lifestyle, orientation, um, choice of fashion, whatever it is. I mean, there's so many subcategories. I can't even sit here and go through them all. It would be a whole episode by itself. You have to come to the reality that not every person, regardless of through litigation or through legislation or through asking, you're not always going to get your way. Not every person is going to conform with that. That's been the case through the world. I mean, that's like asking every single person that believed in a different, religion. Think about all the different religions there are. You say, okay, you have to believe in this new religion. Uh, it's a fair comparison. You have to believe in this new religion that I made or that we have made, and you have to accept it. That's incredibly selfish, A, to do, and B, difficult to do. because I don't feel that anybody that's like a certain political affiliation or religious affiliation or belief or whatever the case is, nobody has the right to force any of that information or indoctrination on anybody. Absolutely, you can present that information, and if they're interested, by all means, give them what they want and need. But I personally don't feel that anybody has the right to force this on anybody. The most I may do for this show is pay for advertising to get more listeners, because to me, it's a joy to see the numbers that I see whenever it comes to the analytics, to see, how far my shows as goes as overseas is. It's really cool, actually. I'm like four. I don't even know. I can't mess with it right now while I'm running, or I'm gonna mess it up. Um, I'm like in 4 countries I didn't even expect that I'm not advertising to. It's really cool. And I love seeing the different, comparisons on who all it is and different geographics and ages and so on and so forth. Um, it's a cool outlet to be able to really just discuss the reality to what's going on. And, I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, I was a victim to cancel culture. But, it is a real thing. And I have experienced it. And I feel that the people that go through that need to come back harder with different platforms. So instead of just merely, focusing on social media, which is mostly just promotion for episodes and me shit posting, um, this is always going to be something that's available on numerous platforms and different channels, and different availabilities and ways for people to be able to listen in. And to me, that's a very cool thing, because you can't take that down. No matter how hard you may try, you're not going to be able to take that down. So, no matter how hard cancel culture may get, it's important for people to continue to express themselves and to say what they have to say, and do it by the means that they want to do it. Just do it, what I would say is in a respectful way, that, at the very least, you can be clear enough to get your message out there. And that's a very important thing, because if you can find the right people that take the time to listen and to process and to really try to relate with, or at least at the very minimum open their mind to, you would really be blown away by what you could learn from other people that initially you may have thought were either, not important, or your enemy, or people you may have never even considered to feel you could learn anything from. And people, they're just so self-centered for the most part, that they grow unhappy, because they have dreams of lavish things and pursuits that they can't ever accomplish, instead of living in the time and, focusing on the smaller goals to get to the bigger goals. So to compensate the sadness within them, they either act out according to, a violent way to feel superior, to promote dominance, to portray outwardly their emotions onto the world around them, so other people have to feel it. There's numerous things that could cause it, and one of the most uh, pitiful is whenever people do that, and that's not their character. That's not their personality. They're doing that to gain the approval to join in with somebody, or another group or organization or entity, or whatever the case may be, that does things that are immoral or against whatever the person's moral code may be. You change yourself to what you think is fitting in, but in reality it's not fitting in. And that's something that always blew me away, is why would a person ever lose their individuality? That's one thing I strive to maintain, and I feel that every other person, uh, should strive to maintain their culture, their heritage, their individuality, by at the same time promoting peace and trying to, bring unity, or at the very minimum attempt to listen to the other side. I mean, we're so out of whack as a people, as a race, as a human race, that we just don't listen for the most part. People aren't willing to have that open dialogue. They're not willing just to sit back and try to listen to the debate, and there's so many different elements around us that causes that. And the news is the worst at it. when you listen to the media, they're telling you which side to believe in. They're telling you to join a party. They're telling you which networks you can and can't trust. They're feeding you opinions that are preformed. I mean, you don't even have the right anymore to make up your own opinion because the news doesn't promote facts. It doesn't promote anything accurate in the sense of actual journalism. The only thing that it promotes is pushing narratives that the networks themselves want to promote, or calling out other networks, and just a back and forth shots across the bow. And it's been this way for quite some time, and I feel that it may or may not get any better, but we have to quit listening to it. And so many people just sucker into it and believe it and feel, oh well, all these things that we're listening to, like so many things, not just now currently, but way back, whenever I can remember, whenever I was 8 or 9, which we'll get into a whole another deal about. But so many people just rely on the word of what they hear and don't do any research and follow blindly. And some of the worst atrocities have ever been committed because of that. I've touched on some of Nazi Germany a little bit. Whenever the brown shirts, which I've touched on a lot, recruited, they were actually just marching down the streets, saluting, singing, chanting, doing what they did. And it inspired the younger generation, the younger guys that were in the streets watching that, because it was a time of chaos. It was a time of poverty. So they were influenced because of the way they were. Somebody looked up to them. Those kids weren't looking, out for themselves. They weren't thinking freely. They weren't, devoted to whatever it is they wanted to do. Of course, I know they were children. Some of them were young men, and the same exact thing applies for the young men too. And I say children as in, 14, 15, 16. They weren't necessarily involved, but they were supporters, so they would be part of the propaganda and be involved in ways, just not the physical brawls and such. But the young men, they have those choices. And just like today's society, you have those choices to think for yourself. And if you're unhappy with yourself, you have the abilities to change that. Go seek the therapy that you need. Go talk to somebody. Go get a friend. Whatever it is you have to do, there's a lot of options, and you have to reach out and try that, even if it's outside of your comfort zone. To some extent, you're going to have to give a little to work on yourself to get that health up and to get that confidence up and to make those things good and work in a positive way for you. Um, because if you don't, and you continue on the path to where you just join something blindly because it sounds good, or because you want to be accepted and you feel some kind of false fulfillment or a contentment even with something, you're not going to be successful or happy or ultimately persuade anybody else to do anything of worth that you're around, because you're living a false life. And I think that's the root of people that are just hateful, hateful people that don't give anybody the time of day, or at least try to listen, is they are so defensive that they're on the offense. And as soon as you say something, they just start firing, man, and it, to me, it don't matter. Like I said, I think it's funny. I find entertainment out of it. But a lot of people do, get upset and hurt about it. The one thing I could say is, you can't listen to these people that are online that are trying to get a rise out of you, because that's what they do and they get off on it. So you just have to buckle up and wipe the tears, whatever it is you got to do, and keep on keeping on, because it's going to happen, and it's going to happen more often than not. Uh, but understanding, or trying to kind of, how I'm trying to promote shit, trying to understand a little bit about where they would be coming from. Um, I'm not saying forgive it or have sympathy necessarily, but it is important to know that the people that try to hurt are hurting, much like those who try to say that everybody's racist is racist. You deflect and portray yourself on other people, and that's how human nature is. So whenever you see these extremes of people that are doing these things, like shutting you down before you have a chance to talk, or accusing you of being racist, or accusing you of being transphobic or homophobic, or whatever, there's so many fucking issues, man. Well, whatever issue it is, um, understand kind of where they're coming from. It's because that's what they are. So it's not, it's not always easy, to be ignorant to bullies and so on and so forth, and just reject that. I understand because I've been through it too. I get it. Um, but again, that's kind of a thing that's a personal responsibility, is find that key to be able to deflect it and to understand that the world, as a whole, it's a beautiful place, but the people in it, aren't necessarily the same in the extent of their attitudes, their souls. So you have to be prepared and grounded as an individual to prepare for everything else around you, because you can't control it all, and that's going to drive people crazy. But it is what it is. You can't control everything. Nobody can control everything. It's the way it is. It's the way it's always going to be. We have to accept it. But we can control ourselves. We can have a true understanding and a peace with ourselves. So when we start to get angry, we can calm ourselves down and find the ways to do so. The same with sadness and everything else that we may experience. We have to have faith in ourselves. And if we don't, we have to find it, because, we can't be a sellout to something we don't believe in, because the only thing we have that we know for sure of is our identity. As soon as we lose that, what is left?
All right, folks, we're going to take a quick break to digest whatever that was.
What's up, kids? You are still listening to ChrisDaGoat. This is just a semi-commercial, well, for myself. So, just to let you guys know, anchor.fm/thegoatman show is the main page you can get a hold of me. You can either download the app at Anchor, or you can just go to the website, send me a voice message, whether it be love mail, hate mail, a question, or a response to one of our social media posts. I can listen to it personally, react to it, and play it in a future episode, which I really want to do. I think it would be really engaging to have you guys involved. Also, keep in mind we are on social media. If you're on Parler, Instagram, or Twitter, we are at The Goatman Show. You can send us a message on any of those, and you can communicate with us, send us memes, any kind of information, or you can request to get on the show and get information on how to do so. Thank you all so much for listening to the show. I'm going to bounce back in so we can listen to me ramble more. Do check us out on social media if you feel so inclined, because the Goat Man loves new friends. Duh. Duh.
And we're back. Chris is done headbutting his studio wall to establish his dominance.
Welcome back, everybody. This is ChrisDaGoat, and this is the Goat Man Show. And as always, my penis isn't 12 inches, but it smells like a foot. So before we left, we were talking about how people have inferiority issues. So once they are unhappy with themselves, they choose to attack somebody else so they can give themselves meaning. And in my opinion, it's really a sad thing, because, we're all such beautiful, unique beings with different cultures and different ideas and different points of view and different walks of life, and with everything just being so different, it's really breathtaking how we can all mesh together and, kind of get influence from cultures for one another. And I think people get so offended, they scream racial or cultural appropriation whenever somebody appreciates something that somebody else does and they do it themselves. They take it, I don't know, if you're not my color, you don't have the right to do what I do, or if you're not my religion, you don't have the right to dress how I dress, that kind of a mindset. And that's silly stuff, because that's not going to do any good to anybody. All you're doing is trying to make a supremacy, which is the whole point of racism, is when you feel that your race is superior to another's. So, what I've never understood with that is people are so, unsure about their self-identity, or so on the standoff side to what they believe in or where they came from, that they feel nobody else has the right to have an opinion on it or to act that way. It'd be like, Halloween being perfect. One day a year, anybody gets to dress up like what they want for fun. But people just go and make it crazy because they're offended, because they have to have a reason to be offended. They have to have a reason for things not to be okay. They have to complete that victim culture. They have to complete that, oh, woe is me culture. And it's It's pathetic, honestly. I mean, if we're just cutting it apart, to me, it's just sick. Um, it's also funny though, because while I'm living life, as many of you do, just go on about your days and go through whatever, and live and let live. There's so many people that get upset and just live in this depression and anger and nastiness because they're so unhappy with themselves they can't find any other way to be. So it's like misery loves company. So if I'm miserable, you're going to be miserable. If I'm a grumpy old man, now I'm going to be grumpy at you because that's just how I feel. People, they don't care about their surroundings anymore, or their fellow man or woman, or humanity as a whole for the most part. And people just want to jump on the freaking wagon and just start lecturing and beating you down. And I make a lot of jokes. God forbid, everybody knows that knows me. I make a lot of jokes about a lot of people, and it's all in good fun. Yeah, I can guarantee people look at me, they can come up with 20 different ways I'm a goofy bastard. I do have fun. There is a difference between having jokes and fun, and then being biased to a point to where you're not going to give somebody the same time of day as you because they don't look the way you do, or because they're a different gender than you are, or because they're a woman or a man or whatever. If you close yourself off to say that one whole being is bad, then you're the ignorant one, not the one you're talking against. It's you, because not every man is bad, not every woman is bad, and we can go through that for every different subcategory that there is. It's just an ignorant way of thinking that portrays the individuals who don't feel like they're individuals, who don't feel happy for themselves. It gives them a channel so they can practice pushing the method of, oh, I'm being discriminated against, or oh, nobody's going to accept me, so I'm going to attack you since you're not understanding me. That's like a child throwing a temper tantrum. If you don't get your way, you're going to scream and yell and make an ass out of yourself. And you really fucking think that's going to do much better? Absolutely not. It's not. That's fucking stupid, though. Because people, I really don't get it a lot of the time. Why do you want to fight? Why is the first instinct to just attack and try to dismantle? It's fear, is what it is. I mean, I know the answer. You fear the individual. People fear me when I tried to do a peaceful police protest at the PD to try to stand up for police brutality in general, not anything color. It's straight police brutality. People made up some of the most horrid, horrendous, gross facts about me and spread them. And if I would have had where I worked on my public profile, I can guarantee they would have even went that far. But they made sure that since they didn't know who I was, couldn't find me listed anywhere, had no record of me being in any kind of, activism, me not being part of Black Lives Matter, me not being part of any local activism organization, that I was the enemy. They decided that. So the first thing they did was attack and assume and make asses out of themselves and lie to all these beautiful people that were in my city hurting at the time by saying, "Oh, well, I have an expert, and his expert analysis is blah 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 blah." Again, this is like the third, fourth episode I fucking said it in. Still waiting, still no proof, because there's not any. Because cancel culture is activated out of fear. They fear people. They fear the individual. They fear the person that doesn't need to have an army behind them. They fear the person who doesn't find the need to change who they are to be happy. They fear the person who speaks their opinion, especially when it separates from the common opinion. They fear all that because they can't control it. They can't estimate what you're going to do. They can't predict where you're going to go. They don't know who you stand for. And in my case, I stand for nobody. I don't have any affiliations. I don't belong to any organizations or any entities. I'm a lone wolf. There's people that are close to me that are ride to die that'll stick around, and that's I keep that, but I don't feel the personal need to be part of an organization or a group or a union or anything like that for me as a person to feel complete or secure or like I'm being treated fairly. So I don't at all Well, don't misunderstand what I'm saying. I don't at all feel that people who do find these things, like the NAACP, for example, I don't feel like those are bad organizations. I definitely feel that, especially in the minority industry, it's very good to have groups that you can trust and you can rely on so that you can take your issues forward there and your people can be represented. I think that's a beautiful thing because you have to look out for yourselves, and that's anybody. Nobody's looking out for us inherently. That's us. We have to look out for ourselves, our family, our parents, our immediates. Those are who takes care of us, and that's generally the way that things go and how it has gone. Um, I personally don't feel I need that to be safe in my endeavors. But I'm not going to dog somebody that has that. But that is more or less, other than the extremes being Black Panthers or the Ku Klux Klan or Proud Boys or any other faction that may be against the opposite color. Again, I don't agree with blind hatred. I just don't. We're all racist to an extent. We all have racial tendencies. I'm not sitting here trying to, fluff your ass and tell you we don't. But it's a matter of if you listen to that or if you're smart enough to know that that's just the ignorance of our society continuing to bleed through today that was ignorant beforehand. You know, it's it's just awe. Awe is the only word. How can we look in the mirror today and let ourselves go back so many steps? How can we let personal uh, misinformation or personal hatred or whatever it is, insufficiencies in ourselves, how can we morph that and channel it into blind racism and hate to other people? And you're blaming the other people for your issues, but the problem is you're the one that has those issues. You know, just because every single person says that straight white men are, the problem with society and are evil, I still chug along doing what I'm doing, and I'm doing just fine. Um, I have a show that I enjoy doing. I have a pretty small, tight knit audience that's very loyal and has been really cool through this whole thing. I have a place to where I can not only express the way I want to express in a prime example on how I feel that there should be open dialogue, but I can also open up the doors to other people who want to get involved and talk too. That's my contribution. Is it huge? No. But that's not me going out and trying to dismantle any group or people or person or belief or idea, because that's just detrimental. That's not going to do any good. I have opinions on extreme groups, extremities, and what their actual beliefs and motives are. But that doesn't change anything. That doesn't affect the price of tea in China. We're all still here, and we're all still human, and we all still have to work together, regardless of what our biases may be, or our beliefs, or anything that we were taught when we were younger. We have to look past everybody else's ideas and get to the point where we can formulate our own. Because intelligence is not contagious, unfortunately. Um, if it were, we'd be in a lot better position, God forbid. But it's up to the individual who wants to prosper and to be better and to love themselves if they're going to actually succeed and be anything. Self-love is a huge thing, and the last episode was all about that. Once you love yourself, you start to understand, we're all beautifully different. I'm not talking tattoos or ear stretchings. I'm talking pigment. I'm talking culture, the way people sound, the way they think, the way they act. It's really cool, because the world would be shit if we were all the exact same carbon copy of one another. But the problem is so many people can't appreciate what they see around them. They don't appreciate these different styles and different ways. So they would rather tear it down because it's not familiar, it's not comfortable. It's in opposition. So most people, especially throughout history, what do? Dismantle the opposition and you have no fear. So that's what people are just trying to do, especially on Twitter. And that's what started this whole episode, is a couple ass sacks that were, just not able to provide a reason why they support their belief, but they had no problem attacking other people for their beliefs. Oh, fair is fair. If you got a belief, that's great, but I'm not seeking you out to attack you unless it's something that's fairly ignorant. Now, that's, let's see, what are a couple things that I've gotten involved with lately? I don't simp for pedophiles. I don't simp for murderers. I don't simp for elderly abuse, and I don't simp for child abuse. I personally feel, unless it's a very, very, very special circumstance, there is no reason that any of those things should happen. Um, with that being said, of course they do. So I'm not going to go around and, hunt down people who I found out they've murdered somebody and shame them, because there's a whole lot to that situation that I don't understand. But that's like a personal bias of mine. Those are things I don't approve of, and I've talked about this too. It's going to be increasingly hard for me to sit here and listen to somebody who can justify hurting somebody else just out of their own desire and not say something about it. I understand that, but that's what I would consider a real world concern. Politics, religion, I mean, just things where it's a personal preference, turning around and attacking people because of that, that's ridiculous. That's not going to solve anything, and especially if you're trying to win people on your side, you're not going to win the opposition by being hateful and shitty and manipulative. You're not. The only thing you're going to do is get a bad name for yourself and your organization or whatever the case is. So if you're unhappy with the way you are, you know, I don't feel the best solution is to go out and make other people feel bad about themselves. Being a bully is never a good thing. You may impress your friends, or you may impress your followers, or whoever likes your page. But at the end of the day, you don't have anything to fall back on except for that popularity. But one day you're going to say the wrong thing. And once you do, you're going to lose that loyalty. And then you're going to, you'll realize that all these people that were actually close to you, just strangers, friends from a long time ago, family members, whoever, you get upset and you tell them basically to go fuck themselves, that their opinions are stupid. Now, what does that do for you? You know, you're not going to be in a good position after that, because once the world comes tumbling down and you realize that you have an opinion the same as everybody else does, they tolerated you, you should have tolerated them, because once you start pulling out claws and you start cutting and slashing, there's scars that don't heal for people. So if you're a good person, or you try to be, um, I personally feel the easiest thing to do is just try to understand people. And if they're crazy and they're not going to listen and they're not going to stop and they're not going to quit attacking, then walk off. Go on about your day and find somebody that's worth the time. Because if somebody acts like that, they got some mental psyche issues that are far beyond your control. So don't feel bad that you can't help them, man. That's, some people just hate to hate because they hate themselves so much, and it don't matter who it is. It could be you, it could be, anybody in their family, it could just be somebody walking by. They're just hateful people because they're unhappy. So you can't let, I mean, there's some opinions you should care about, granted, but you shouldn't let strangers put you in any kind of position. If they don't know who you are, obviously, the only thing they could be saying what they're saying for is that self gratification of feeling like they know what they're doing. Everybody wants to be a talk show host. Everybody wants to be a Dr. Phil. Everybody wants to be a Rachel Ray. Everybody wants to be a guy. Everybody wants to be all these things. They want to have this prestige, and they want to have this respect, and they want to have this entitlement. But at the end of the day, that's not important. What is important is love and unity and working together as a people to fix the issues that we all have. And if we're all broken parts, let's fix ourselves so that we can move together, move forward. Um, I personally feel mental health is a huge thing that the United States just shuns away, but it's something that needs to be easily accessible. I feel that that's a big cause to a lot of issues: narcissism, mass shootings, just widespread mental illness and insufficiencies. Um, I just genuinely feel that if people had access to mental health through trauma or abuse or whatever it is they may have contacted or been in contact with throughout their lives, that there's a good possibility they would be able to identify what happened to them and actually find the help that they need. Man, the brain The brain is a fucking sponge, and I'm telling you, it is a beautiful, intriguing organ. Humans are very easy to manipulate. Humans are very easy to lead in a different direction. Uh, there's multiple different things that have been found throughout history, especially in World War II in Germany, when they did different studies and tests to see, what kind of cognitive ability somebody would have and the ability to manipulate that. It's really sad because the media, propaganda then as it was called, media as it's called today, formulates things perfectly to get you to believe whatever the narrative is that they want to push. And the human mind, instead of somebody being naturally curious the way they should be, oh, that doesn't seem right, or oh, what the fuck are you trying to say? That's bullshit. They just follow along with it. And the problem is that loses your individual drive to be exactly that, an individual, and just lumps you into another category. Well, the problem is we have to be individuals first, in the aspect that we have to stand as one. We don't have to rely on a group. We don't have to rely on an organization. We don't have to rely on support. We can use those things and benefit from them, but we also need to answer for our own actions and be responsible for our own lives and our own downfalls and our own, lesser than desired effects that we have on outside influences. That's our thing. That's nobody else's. That's what we got to deal with. But so many people would rather just, link into a group or just attack because they don't know who they are. And I think it all starts with a mental illness to an extent. I really do. So I feel if you feel the only way that being happy and successful is by being a dick or a bitch, um, you can go fuck yourself. Let's just be honest. Oh, I'm a bitch and I'm proud of it. That's great, and everybody has their attitudes, but for you to push people away every time you see them, that's not good. That's not a normal or okay thing to do, and you're never going to have the bond that you're needing or asking about. And that's a whole nother point I want to leave this segment on real quick is unity. We have to work together. I have to work on me by myself. You have to work on you by yourself. But if you want my people to look at your people different, or we want your people to look at my people different, man, we got to sit down and just have a chat. But the problem is everybody wants to make these assumptions and everybody wants to say the other side's evil. And everybody wants to put all these just labels and hate and evil on everybody around them without having so much as a single fucking fact or piece of proof or shred of evidence. They just want to go out and blame and accuse because that's what this culture is anymore. I don't understand you, so I'm going to yell at you. I'm going to try to shut you down because you are detrimental to my survival. The problem is with that attitude, you are detrimental to everybody else's survival. Instead of us working together, we are dividing into so many microorganisms and canceling out the main organs that we're no longer going to be a body able to function. We're just going to be lungs, livers, and balls floating around a fucking sack. I mean, that makes sense, though, and that's for real. If we continue to tell people they're not important and we continue to separate, oh, so now we're not white. Now we're white cis people, white trans people, white asexual people, white whatever. You got 80 different categories to one color. Then you divide that or multiply that by all the different colors in the world. Maybe you can start to see a little bit to how that doesn't work out. So why are we continuing to divide? That's division. Division does not cause unity. We have to be more together. So I feel instead of us making these massive violent pushes to demand acceptance, maybe we should work on a few other issues that have lasted a little bit longer than the new age problems that we have. And once we start building that trust and laying that foundation, then we can understand, oh, so and so is good, so and so is bad. Then we can really understand who we can trust and who we can't. Then we can be unstoppable together, guys. But nobody wants to take the time to have that dialogue because God forbid we talk and try to understand each other. You know, I may not be as entertaining as a fight, but I'm entertaining to an extent because I say it how it is. And all different pieces of information in this world are important to have, especially when it comes to things like this. We have to remember that we're all human and we have to remember that we all are here to take care of each other. We take care of ourselves first, we take care of our family second, we take care of our country above and above all else before we worry about anybody else. That's the way it should be. Much love, guys. Chill tight. We'll be right back.
ChrisDaGoat desperately needed a pee break, so we are gonna give it to him. And before we know it, that Capricorn hippie banjo loving hillbilly will be coming back at ya. Stay tuned. We're back.
Welcome back to the Goat Man Show. This is ChrisDaGoat, and I've been listening to a podcast on the side. It's called Two in the Box Podcast, and no, it's not about a gangbang. These dudes, these guys are hockey enthusiasts from Canada, and although I really have no interest in sports whatsoever, their stuff is so fucking funny. It's like me, but twice as bad and twice as many. And I think the only reason theirs is twice as bad is I have a few serious topics I want to get done in the first season to be able to lay some groundwork, on some of the stuff. So then I can really expand into all the crazy stuff. So I can start getting a foothold. That's the main reason why I've chosen the social issues that I have so far. So these guys at the Two in the Box, it's talking about guys that are bitching and sticking tampons in the tips of their dicks and stuff. Perfect stuff. It's right up my alley. It actually is about hockey, and I'm not a big sports guy whatsoever. Anybody who knows me knows that. However, hockey I can respect because at least you get to beat the holy shit out of one another and then have their brains fall out and it's already on ice, so you're good to go. I got the hiccups all of a sudden. Fucking corn. So if you get the chance, go listen to them. It cracks me up. So really the three I'm stuck on right now is Two in the Box podcast, and then, well, honestly, I guess the only other one. I like to go through and listen to snippets of Joe Rogan as well, because same kind of thing. It's informative. I love to see the passion with people. I love to see humor and hear humor and feel the good vibes that people have, because you can see so much passion and hear so much passion in their voices between both Joe Rogan and the Two in the Box cast. All the dudes are just, they remind me a lot of somebody that needs to be doing a podcast, really. They have a lot of things to talk about, a lot of intelligence, a lot of passion, and they're able to present it in a way that's not only entertaining, but is also valuable to the people around. It's entertainment value, it's education value. Anyway, so that's usually what I do during the breaks and otherwise. So if you get the chance, Two in the Box podcast, you can find them on Spreaker as well as, well, pretty much anywhere else that doesn't mind super explicit podcast. I don't think they're everywhere because I think they are pretty rough. They are pretty rough, so I don't think that they're everywhere. But you can go to Spreaker and look up the number two in the Box podcast, and then of course with Joe, you can go anywhere and look up his stuff, and that's pretty well YouTube and Spotify and every other freaking single outlet. So the reason why I bring up podcasts is it goes exactly into what we're talking about today as a whole. And as a whole, the issue is one thing or another. It's either you are going to project your positivity on those around you, or you're going to project your negativity on those around you. And a lot of that's the style of music you choose to listen to. I know I can get in a whole different mood based off of what I'm listening to music wise. It's not always a good thing, but it does happen. So, what that means for me is I may be in a decent mood, or I may be, happy. And then if I listen to the wrong kind of music, it starts getting you in a more angry mindset or gets you thinking about some dark stuff. So, you can influence yourself for your overall general well being and mood. And then that naturally, based off of your personality, is going to, that's going to be what you project onto others. So, the way I look at it is if you are a happy person, you are going to try to spread that happiness. And if you are a negative person, you're going to try to spread that negativity. So, however you are, you need to be it and do it in a way that you feel complete, because that's going to be when you contribute the best to the world around you. If you're unhappy with the way you think about stuff, you don't have to tell anybody you're doing it, but expose yourself to different kinds of cultures. I mean, if you genuinely are afraid of somebody of a different color, why don't you look up, just start with their food. Start with their food and why a food is indigenous to their areas or their country or their culture or whatever. Then you can go into maybe clothing. Then you can go into religion or just basic thoughts. Or then you can start to do more research into their backgrounds and find out. It's all a game of understanding. When you misunderstand something or you're afraid of something, you would rather shut it out and eliminate it and delete it, block it, burn it, sweep it under the rug like it never existed, instead of actually trying to understand. Now, understanding isn't for everybody. There's a lot of people out there that are, it's my way or the highway, fuck you if you don't like it. And I understand that, and to a point I respect it because I'm that way on a few things as well. But if you're not willing to at least try to understand the other side, then you don't owe anything to yourself because you are contributing to be a major part of that problem by not moving forward and not pushing on and trying to contribute. Because so many people want to play victim whenever somebody, and again, we're mostly on a Twitter online platform kind of episode talking about this kind of stuff. Um, when you're on social media and you say something it's opinionated, you are going to get verbally abused immediately, probably, if you're, of a decent following or whatever the case is, because people hate people that have an opinion, man. They fucking hate it. And that's why I love my little podcast. That's an hour of go fuck yourself. If you don't like it, you can hit stop and go somewhere else. But I'm not going to fall victim to cancel culture. I almost did one time. I've been accused of all these evil, horrible things. And I could have turned that energy into just hate and pushed forward and been like, you know what? You're going to slander me. I'm going to ruin the rest of your lives. But there's no point in that because that's just going to, that's fighting fire with fire and it doesn't do any good. See, I want change. So when something bad happens to me, I have two choices. I can either take that aggression and fire it back, or I can take it, process it, and try to use it for good. And that's what I try to do. And I feel that it would be better if other people would just, even if you disagree. I mean, Trump, people hate Trump so much that a lot of times if you say the word Trump, that they just can't do it though. You can't be like that. You have to at least listen because if you're not going to give me respect, I'm just speaking on behalf of most common people, and I think anybody listening will agree. If you're going to treat me anyway and expect yourself not to get treated that way back, you're fucking crazy. If you give me the respect of asking and trying to understand and maintaining a decent human voice level, so that way it's like you're not supreme, I'm not supreme, we're the same thing together, just having a conversation, trying to understand one another. Whenever that kind of a platform is established, you would get the respect back. But if the first thing you want to do is start flinging rocks at people and play the offensive role, you can't anticipate anybody wanting to be kind with you or work with you or listen with you or even hold any merit in what you're saying anymore. Because if you have to use fear and you have to push people to get your way, I think it's grossly obvious something is not right with the movement that you've chosen. And if you have to force it upon people, then you need to find a different movement because obviously it's not a proper thing. To the point to where, and I'm not going to say that because we can use religion. If I'm a religion and I'm trying to share my beliefs with you and you're not, then there may not be that being able to, convince and have that open dialogue on things that there's so much passion about, for that example. But we owe it to ourselves and each other to try to maintain that, and to try to have that open dialogue and to, try to make the world a little better how we can. And that's why when we go to Two in the Box podcast, and Joe Rogan, to me, those things, is in a way what makes me happy because I love nothing more than seeing somebody chase their passion. It's people, they're humans, they have struggles. I'm sure they're fucked up individuals the same as the rest of us are. But they do what makes them happy and they don't hold anybody else either accountable for it or they don't stop doing what they love because of anybody, and they continue to try to push and make the world a more entertaining, more diverse, interesting place. And to me, that's fucking amazing because the world is so full of we need to cancel, we need to cancel, we need to shut down, we need to bury, we need to burn, we need to dismantle. They want to disassemble all these things that make them feel in a funny way that they may not have felt before, or that makes them a little mad because somebody else has succeeded in something that they don't feel they should have succeeded in. I mean, it could be that simple. People could be just jealous of the fact, oh, I can't believe somebody could be smutty and shitty and say tampons and dick nuggets and ball farts and still make people laugh and be on the air. How can they do that? That offends me. And that's the way the world works. It's not, oh, these people have put in their own time, money, energy, soul, and dedication into something, but I'm offended. They've done all this, so they deserve whatever happens for them. Or, it's the opposite. Oh no, I've heard this. It offends me. Shut it down so I never have to come across it again. Man, if you're just that fucking bothered by something, stay away from it. Tell people the truth about it. If we're talking racism and you're talking, oh, we need to get people to join an organization, then you speak out against racism. You say why it's ignorant. And then, you let the people deal with what they have to deal with, what happens next with them. But don't fall for the traps whenever they try to bait people in, and they try to say these things to hurt you and upset you just to try to get a rise out of you because, in their opinion or their mindset, that's all they can do because they're unsuccessful people. I hope you like my little two. whenever they don't, you know, whenever they don't have the ability to appease themselves, or it's just an overall negativity, an overall just I don't even know, bullshittiness, then their first thought's just, man, we got to project that on other people so we win. If there's no competition, we win. If the other team doesn't have enough players to come out on the field, we win by default. And I think that's how a lot of the mindset comes around to it. There's a lot of people think that they don't have the ability to function without being an individual. Now, I know it's kind of confusing because I talk about being united and I also talk about being an individual, but they're both the same thing in light of what we're talking about. In order to be united, you have to see yourself and everybody else as an individual, not a race, not a classification. They're humans. So once you can love yourself and love your fellow man and realize they're just like you with different struggles, different families, different everything, but they're just like you, they're just human. Once you reach that pivotal moment, then you start thinking about the community as a whole. So you have to look at the individual on the basis of respecting yourself and everybody else as individuals. And then you can think about everybody else around you in the sense of, okay, we're all equal. We all have things we need. How can we work together to accomplish the access to those things? And then that's what it boils down to. I don't know if anybody has thought that through all the way or not. But when it boils down to it, it's like, if you can't look at everybody the same on an equal playing field, then you don't see the real value in what they can offer, or you don't see what they have moving forward. So why would you include them in part of the plan? It would be easy to, and let's use World War II, for example. It was very easy for the German leadership to look and say, us as a people, us as Germans, deserve greatness. We deserve prosperity. We deserve happiness. We deserve our old throne back, except there's a couple of people that are going to make that not possible. And that was the mindset that caused everything that we all know happened. And if you don't know what happened, you need to look up the Holocaust, and you need to look up socialism, and you need to look up World War II atrocities, because the only way you're going to understand fully what did happen and what could happen again in the future is by understanding the past, and how as soon as you let a group, be it small, huge, political, religious, unaffiliated, whatever, as soon as you let an organization come in and give them the power and the mindset of being able to tell you that any group of people is less important than another, that is when we lose our morality and we will start to see atrocities like we cannot imagine in modern times. And everybody wants to go around and say, oh, well, this is 2020. It can't happen now. You know, yes, yes, it fucking can. Um, every government has plans just in case, and we're not going to know about it because we're average citizens and we're asleep and we're not supposed to be that smart. But there has been some declassified documents in the United States government, for example, that basically has plans for internment camps for mass roundups of American citizens, if in an emergency situation where they have to. And there's different jobs, different professions in it, and everything else. So yes, there is a very real possibility that if we don't keep the whole world in check, and we don't keep our humanity, and we don't keep our uh, overall love for one another open, we're going to fall victim to some of the worst atrocities that we have seen before. And the cause of all this comes from the people that may not think they're doing that much, but those people who attack and try to dismantle immediately without so much as asking a question or having any intelligent argument. As soon as they start spreading hate and ignorance, that's whenever it's dangerous, because the simple people, the ignorant people, those who have influence to the lower levels, of, if we're looking at the economic scale, the lower levels of people, if they start having hate and biases and they start being influenced to not love themselves as a person first and then trying to take care of everybody around them, including family, neighbors, so on and so forth, then that's going to be whenever we're most susceptible. So I think that the continued division by the media is a bad thing. The continued division by these people who immediately jump on and say, oh, well, you're a Trump supporter. Oh, you're a Biden this. Oh, you're a this or that. I say it as a joke. Well, it's not really a joke. It's really sad whenever I make my points. But again, they're really not unprovoked. It's just to point out hypocrisy so people can really think, see that what they're saying and what they're doing don't make sense. And hopefully, if enough people call them out on it, they'll think you'd be like, that really doesn't fucking make sense. Why am I doing it? And then they can actually make a difference. And I hope that that's what a couple people take out of this at the very, very least. Um, so we have to try to keep our humanity, and we have to try to keep the love and respect for one another open. Because if we don't, we can justify, oh, well, we can all take care of ourselves, except for whatever. I mean, insert name here. Does you want it to be gay, white, black, whatever? If we start saying, oh, we need special treatment for these groups and that group and this group, but then we need to take away the rights from another group, that's, again, that's not okay. I mean, I understand reparations to an extent on certain things that have come and gone and happened. And I wouldn't argue that. I don't think anybody else would either. But to go and put any race or culture or religion above the rest in this nation is not going to make your lives more prosperous. All it's going to do is cause division and more separation and more issues. We need to pull away from that. We need to try to take the sting out of racism and take the sting out of sexism. One of the things that I agree with are a lot of the what I call ooh and ah comedians. There's a bunch of them who, when they make jokes, it is rough. I'm talking like in today's society, they really don't have high regards, a lot of them, but I still, have mass respect for them. One of my favorite comedians and personas was Yucko the Clown. For the love of God, if anybody looks that up today, they're either going to be like me and lose their shit laughing, or they're going to be so offended their fucking brains will explode and they will have no idea how that was ever allowed. Because what used to be, well, that one was small. What used to be as a society to where the biases were not near as offensive, I mean, you're always going to have them, but they weren't near as offensive. People just let it roll. They just understood what a joke was. And they didn't let little things that somebody else had, other people's opinions, ruin their entire lives like we allow it today. So you go check it out. Go check out Yucko if you haven't, because he will blow your mind if you didn't even know he existed. But anyway, we're going to get into the final stretch of this, and we're going to finish it out with the whole point. The whole moral of this is let's surround yourself with those who are passionate and spread your passion, because you will impact other people. Regardless of who they are or how they are, you will impact other people. If you don't like somebody for a simple reason, you need to try to look into your heart and try to open up to other things, open up to more understanding, open up to education, because hating to hate is ignorant. That's like living to live. There's a reason, there has to be a purpose. Find it, man. Find it and use it and love it, because we're all given this wonderful gift. Why would we spend it with war when we could spend it with building things together to make more of a world worth being in, more than what we're in now? It's just shit to think about. So anyway, guys, respect. Don't let the bullies get to you. They're just there to make a scene. Most of them are just there to get a rise out of you. I'll keep posting shit on the Twitters. You'll love it. You'll get to see what they're all about. You'll see all the ones I find and all the hypocrisy I come across. Anyway, guys, as you've probably heard on the Midway commercial, I'm going to let you know one more time real quick. We do have a few social medias if you want to check us out. We're on Parler, we are on Instagram, and we are on Twitter at The Goatman Show. So you can get a hold of us on any of those, or you can share some media with us. Go follow some of the stuff we're doing live time, so on and so forth. And as always, if you want to send us a voice message, you can go to anchor.fm/The Goatman Show. Send us a message, put your name as whatever. You can use it on the air. Love you guys so much. Respect. Thank you so much for listening and sharing the word and keeping us going. We'll talk to you guys on the next episode. In the meantime, think about it a little bit today. Think about it. Take a step back and just breathe. We're going to get through it. It may take months when we wish it was days. It may take hours when we wish it was seconds. But once you find yourself, and once you work on those around you, your life will change for the better, and other people won't be encouraged to do the exact same for themselves.
That's all, folks. Thanks for listening to The Goatman Show with ChrisDaGoat. Subscribe and leave a review if you'd be so inclined. Until next time. ChrisDaGoat, he has a podcast, yeah. ChrisDaGoat, it's called The Goatman Show. He's a Capricorn hippie, banjo-loving hillbilly. He lives in Missouri. It's The Goatman Show, yeah.